I'm really excited because I think we have 3 different vantage points across infrastructure and data and product, and making strong bets on all of the above. So we're at a moment in time when nearly every company is positioning itself as an AI company. But from your perspective, what actually defines a true AI company today and what distinguishes it from the rest? Kelly, I'm sure you get inundated with myriads of pitches every day from companies calling themselves AI companies.
So I'll start. And first to just say, really happy to be here. It's awesome to see the European ecosystem flourish, and the Netherlands has been a very core part of that. AI companies, every single company we met, even if we met them 10 years ago, we meet them again today, they add AI to the deck, and suddenly they're an AI company. So I think there's a wide spectrum of the level of AI-ness, and I think there are many rights to exist for each one, depending on the sector. But I think what's more important is actually how do you retain the right to win as an AI company in a world where there are so many different startups. Like Nikita mentioned, there are new databases, new apps coming up every day. So what is the competitive moat? So I think the conversation has shifted to focusing on that, at least from my vantage point.
Thank you. And from a product perspective?
Yeah, so I want to also start by saying that I'm very glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me. A company could be an AI company on several kind of levels. It can be a technology company developing new algorithms, developing the AI. Could be a service company providing some services based on AI. Could be a product company building something for other service companies or for B2C, for consumers. My idea is that you can call your company an AI company if it's a product company. If there's something that you can do 10 times more efficient, cheaper, better, faster, with 10 times less people, at least 10 times than before, and that is powered by AI. So that makes that gives you the right to call the company AI, but still AI is a means, not an end, usually. So that's my perspective.
Yeah. Thank you, Anton. And Olga, as the foundation of all of this is data. What's your perspective?
It works. Thank you. I would actually agree that the question of being AI or not AI company is not already actual anymore. I think we're coming with AI being just the foundation, like electricity powering any company, any operations. It's much more important to talk about what your company actually does rather than talking about how does it do it with AI more or less sense. I think it is interesting, like looking at our experience for the past several years, and I think Nikita today mentioned it already. There are things that kind of outsourceable to AI, and there are many things that you can do now 10 times, 100 times faster with 0 people involved, etc. But there are also things that are not outsourceable, and basically it all starts with understanding what you need to do. And that part, like you cannot delegate that to AI. You need to have this understanding, the core expertise needs to belong to you, and then AI turns more into the means of achieving this goal and building the solution that you have in mind.
Thank you. I think what makes it also an extra privilege to have the 3 of you together on a panel is that you all bring distinct research backgrounds as well. So how has your research background, and maybe you can say a couple of words about that, but how has that experience shaped the way that you approach building and decision-making and problem solving in your current careers?
So I did some research at Harvard, this is 3-4 years ago, and we were exploring actually from an edtech perspective how to create an AI tutor. So this is so simple now, but 3 years ago is novel. And I think the thing that differentiates research from, say, a startup, to me, is really, in research, you can explore, hit many walls and keep going. And we tried out, 7 different models, spent time to fine-tune them, train them. Whereas in a startup in this current environment, to get funding primarily, you need to have a commercial goal very quickly. And so actually, it is a privilege to be in research. And I think it's important to bring, I mean, so many of these startups are actually built by researchers, right? It's important to bring that exploratory mindset, even when you're seeking like a commercial goal.
Yeah, exactly. I would repeat that I feel it as a privilege to do some research because the environment dictates that everyone be very competitive, very fast. The speed seems like one of the key things today, and research kind of conflicts a little bit with speed. You need to have time. You need to be able to get negative results. To also research is very much about publicizing negative results, which is not what you can see from founders and companies today. But I think the core part is still so important because I think what research background gives me is just a data-driven approach to trying and build the company. So everyone has to have a gut and trust it sometimes, but if you can see the signals and make conclusions based on the signals and work in the data-driven way, then I think you have a better chance at succeeding.
Thank you, Olga. I think that data-driven approach segues perfectly into
Matches all the keywords.
Yeah.
But indeed, the research has always been an important part of Toloka DNA. Like the topic of, I would say, scientific or research approach towards managing human effort at scale was always a very interesting topic for us throughout all our history. That's why Toloka team had been always participating in all the major research conferences and so on. But I think, like, since we at Toloka are powering, like, I would say, the most advanced and the most famous foundational models in the world right now, we are seeing an interesting trend. I would say that AI industry as it is right now is much, like, to the great extent driven by AI researchers. The personas we are talking to at every AI lab are mostly AI researchers, and it is very interesting to talk similar language to them, to be discussing benchmarks and gain in certain public metrics, etc., etc. At the same time, I think soon we will start seeing the change in the industry, because as real AI adoption grows, it will become a little bit less of the area of AI researchers and a little bit more the area of engineers. Like the classical machine learning industry at some moment became much more about high load and like really engineering solutions. So I think we are not there yet, but I foresee this being a trend for the next several years.
Yeah. And as you mentioned, adoption, I mean, we're seeing no shortage of impressive AI demos, but what does it actually take in your experience what is the hardest part of bridging that gap from prototype to durable product, something that actually makes it into the real world?
Scalability.
Yeah.
I think, say, 2-3 years ago, everyone was like, oh, ChatGPT, now I can use that to figure out how to fix my drying machine, or, like that was the kind of use case that I was using initially. Then it became the year of, okay, enterprise top-down CEOs are saying, we need to use AI. How do we use it? So lots of pilots. And then this year, it's a year of, let's actually convert those pilots into solutions at production, deployed scale. Now, there are a lot of startups that will fall off from that to that step. I think it actually boils down to very human things, interestingly. Like, which team do you want to work with? There's a lot of there's a lot of forgiveness that CEOs, enterprises are giving to startups, because everyone knows that we're building the plane as it's being flown. And so people are saying, okay, you say you can do this. Who do I trust? Which team to build it with me? So there's a lot more of a kind of beta design partner approach right now. And so it goes back to that human level, like who can you trust, what background or not background, to build something that is secure, actually works, focus on ROI metrics.
Anton, are you building the plane as you're flying it?
Definitely. Yeah, you basically stole the answer that I was prepared to give. It really is all about trust. Exactly why you said that. So with new technologies that are arriving, we're disrupting a lot of industries, and from our experience building something in the media industry, one of the industries that is really traditional, with a lot of conservatism in there, we're creating something new, and our clients, which are enterprises, needs to build based on the technology, on the product that we provide. They need to build a business on top of that. What they're looking for is a trusted partner whom they can go together with. And we've been given a good kind of exercise and example in that. One of the recent big contracts that we signed, and actually a couple of latest contracts. I know there was a competition between us and a couple of other companies, some startups like us, some even bigger and more well-known companies. I know our competitors charge 2-3 times more than we do. Sorry, 2-3 times less than we do, and still clients wants to go with us. And I know this is because we come to the office, we shake hands, we meet at the conference, we explain how things work. We're not arrogant, and this is so important, especially in industry like media. So yeah, building trust is one of the most important things that unlocks adoption, I think.
Olga?
I want to take a little bit different angle and talk about benchmarks. Because, again, as we are moving from demos to real-life adoption, that is the gap that we are seeing from the specific optics that we have in Toloka, is the gap between public benchmarks and the ranking of models on them, comparing to their how do they really work in real production. Like, for example, actually next week we are going to release our new Toloka Arena with the leaderboards comparing different models on the private benchmarks that were not yet leaked to the training data and were not the labs did not have the temptation to optimize for them. And actually we are seeing surprising results sometimes. We do see that sometimes the models that were considered to be very strong among the leaders are performing actually much worse in the non-public benchmarks. We do see sometimes that more expensive models or even more smart models are not performing better than cheaper options. And that substantially depends on the specific of the real tasks. And I think that is the important part that we will start seeing in the industry is actually optimizing AI solutions for specific use cases. Yeah.
I will stay with you on that, and optimizing for specific use cases. Data has obviously long been seen as a key advantage in building AI. What does meaningful data advantage look like today, and how should founders think about building or accessing it in practice?
Well, indeed, data is always one of the key building blocks for any AI solutions. If we are talking, I think there are several categories of founders or companies we can be talking about. If we are talking about foundational labs, obviously data is an absolute priority. That's why that is the market we are playing on. We do see how frontier labs are treating data super seriously, how careful they are in selecting the partners, and how then trustful they are once they have selected a partner to go with them and experiment with all the new types of data, all the new types of approaches that are really driving the models forward. And that is what we are enjoying in working with the frontier labs at Toloka. At the same time, if we are talking about like startups and enterprise and like more real life use cases, I think when we're talking about data, it's much more about the to some extent, your data should be as good for AI and for agents as it is for your humans. So the data that is available, that is well structured, that is kept up to date, is important for any operational company.
Thank you. Anton, for a researcher turned founder, when do you know when to rebuild versus when to iterate? And what actually stayed stable across both?
Well, that's a very good question. I think I still struggle to answer it definitively give you an answer that you can apply all the time, because it is a bit of an intuition thing. Sometimes. This is part that I struggle to bring my data-driven approach to. Sometimes you feel like another iteration is needed. You can improve over the system that's already there. But sometimes you see maybe, okay, the idea was nice, but it's not really applied not really well received by the market, by the clients. It's hard to give a definitive guideline like that. But what I can say is it's really important to have the capacity to rebuild, because we are driven by our internal conservatism to try and evolve rather than rebuild and do something from scratch. But this is a very important skill to have.
Right. Thank you. And Kelly, how do you see companies approaching that? Or you also touched previously on competitive moat. I mean, that's a shifting target in today's age, but especially as large tech companies expand their AI capabilities. What do you think is truly defensible today for earlier stage startups?
It's $1 trillion question. And I think for many people here in the room, hopefully, I mean, it sounds like a lot of people are building startups. So hopefully, that's wins against the incumbent. I think that actually Nebius is a good example of coming up against very established hyperscalers like cloud businesses, owning a wedge, being like, okay, well, we know how to step up data centers from scratch, and we know AI workloads at heart. And we are nimble enough. 2 years ago, it was not this office. It was smaller. It was actually kind of crazy to be a public company, but essentially a Series A startup when we did the first hype investment. And so Nebius is a good example of how you can do that, right? Like they held on to the skill sets that they had, and then just owned a wedge that you can win because you're more nimble. I think the name of the game today is actually speed. I think especially in an age where everyone is releasing product features 1 week, from each other. Like one competitor launches X and then the one launches the other Y and then this one launches, like it's just constantly the same almost. And so I think what matters at some point becomes more brand and go-to-market strategy and who is top of mind. So I think actually, if you've noticed, if you go on LinkedIn, for example, you see so many builders like building in public now. They're like, oh, I reached 1 million customers. Look at my chart. I'm going to not show you the axis. I don't know how many it actually is, but it goes like this, right? So like you're seeing a different kind of founder emerge, which is pretty interesting. And I think it's like goes back to brand power, who can be the strong presence to say, hey, I'm going to own this space.
And if you're not prepared to do it, get a co-founder that is.
Yes, exactly.
Right. Looking back, like Anton, you said you cannot apply your data-driven approach to this particular area, right? So looking back, where did the mental model that you had of what would building an AI look like? Where did you come up against friction against that? And how did you handle it?
So I think my personal story is very mission-driven. So I kind of I started with a vision and the idea that, I want to break down the language barriers, and that means media formats, that means videos, that means movies, TV, and stuff like that. Technology kind of unlocks that. So there were a little struggle from a little struggle about understanding what's the problem that I'm trying to solve, and more about finding the ways how to solve it. So I'm not sure if that answers the question.
Yeah, I would say so. Olga, is there anything that has been more challenging than you expected when you started out?
Some things I would say, as Anton mentioned, if you have a clear mission and understanding what problem you are solving, that part is not something that is like changing or becomes more difficult than anticipated. There is a problem, you're finding the optimal ways to solve it in given conditions. There are things that, there are different muscles that are stronger or weaker in different companies. So for us, definitely that technological muscle has always been strong, and engineering muscle, while the go-to-market muscle had for a long time been weaker, and we needed some time to gain that power, which I hopefully now can say that we succeeded in. But basically, I do see that development of any business is basically going from one bottleneck to another. And once you solve one, you meet another one, and then the new one. And learning to celebrate, actually, that you're moving from one bottleneck to another is a special skill, because sometimes you just get obsessed because, okay, again, a bottleneck. But actually, that is already a huge gain that means that you've solved the previous one and just facing the new one.
So celebrate the friction more.
Yeah, I think it's a good summary. Thank you.
Kelly, for you perhaps to start with, you mentioned building public, right? But for founders that are building today, whether in public or not so public yet, is that what will matter far more than they think? And is there anything else that they're likely over-optimizing for instead?
I mean, that's one way to build. If I were to build, I definitely wouldn't build that way. It's not my personality. So I feel like everyone should stick to who they are, and people actually embrace authenticity, right? What people over-optimize? Well, what I found interesting was in the last year, we all thought that models were going to commoditize, like the foundation model. Well, I did at least, and I couldn't be more wrong today. I think scaling laws are still existing. Apps built on top. The product actually from yesterday to today would work or not based on the latest model release. So there's still actually a lot of work being done on the model layer. So the foundation is shifting still. So I guess like in the past, if you over-optimize for only building a product on working on one set of things, you just have to be nimble enough, the architecture, to be building stuff and be able to switch things in and out. I think Nebius comes into this as well, right? Where if you're building on a closed source model only, like now people are actually routing different models to different use cases because they're maybe to the benchmark point, Olga, that you mentioned, there are certain models that do better for some and you need to be able to route them, or even for a cost perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking about models and benchmarks, quite often we do see that actually you can gain lots of costs economy without losing quality by switching from one model to another.
So beyond celebrating the bottlenecks, is there any other advice that you would give to founders or people who are building companies, as Kelly said in the room?
You know, I think that is actually the advice that I would give because personally for myself, that is the most hard thing to apply.
Thank you. Anton?
Well, I would feel more comfortable in a position to give advice once I built my company to at least 80% of where I wanted to be. But I guess my advice at the point would be don't take your eyes off the mission. Understand what's the problem that you're trying to solve, who are you trying to help, and understand that AI and data and everything around that is just means and instruments for how you achieve your goal. And if your goal is something meaningful, then you have a great chance of building a good business.
That would have been a fantastic way to wrap up the panel. But I do want to open up the floor for questions that we have received from the audience as well. So, Kelly, how has the sourcing, due diligence, and monitoring stack you use changed in VC with AI? And how do you spot, alpha amongst all the noise?
So we talk about startup competition. There's also VC competition, right? And the AI-pilled VC who sources faster than the next will eventually win. So we use it across the stack, and there's still a lot to do, I would say. From the sourcing side, so for us, it's about spreading a wide net, right? You want to catch, because they're diamonds in the rough, or they're diamonds everywhere. We invest in 45 cities. It would be impossible to be in all 45 cities all at once. So we use AI tools to just kind of screen for signals. And then the most important thing, though, because if every VC is reaching out, then the important thing is the relationship piece and still finding ways to add value to the partner and the founder.
Right. Thank you. Olga, how important are new families of sensors in order to gather good AI food for the models? Thank you.
Thank you. I hope that I understand the question correctly. So the interesting part of our industry is that we are observing the waves of AI development as they come and go. And what is interesting is that the time of these eras becomes shorter and shorter. We've been operating for quite many years in classical machine learning era, which and it lasted for maybe 8 or even 10 years. And then it suddenly replaced with era of Gen AI. And from the point of view of data that is being used for training AI, that was a switch from the basic crowdsourcing when human expertise was needed to train AI always. But initially it was enough to be just human to provide some new and valuable signal to AI. When we switched to the Gen AI, roughly speaking, when ChatGPT came out, it became the era of the necessity of highly skilled domain knowledge, and we started working the job of AI training became much more intellectually heavy and much more professional. We started working with PhD level specialists like professors in physics and mathematics, senior software developers, practicing lawyers, medical professionals, etc., etc. But that era also did not last forever. And then we have seen the growth of agentic data, which required already not only the human highly skilled expertise, but also the environments in which humans and agents are operating, which presumed collecting multi-vectors pieces of data, including environments or worlds, how they are called now, and the trajectories of the agentic behavior. But as much as that was in fashion, even 6 months ago, right now the buzzwords have already changed, and now everything is about physical AI. And suddenly you feel that you are absolutely too late if you are not into physical AI. That is the specifics of our industry. We need to run faster than the fastest running actor everywhere. And when we are talking about physical AI, this is where we are talking about additional sensors in a way. This is much more about collecting data from humans executing different tasks, especially when we're talking about building humanoid robots. This is about egocentric views of and collecting videos from cameras and special equipment and hardware to collect teleoperations data, and etc. And actually the interesting question, I'm sure that soon there will be some new wave, and we will be talking about some new types of data and sensors that are needed to power the next wave of AI.
Thank you. I think that leads perfectly into the next question from the audience as well. It says, I can choose a direction where we have a founder advantage. I can choose a direction aligned with VC trends and a growing market. Or I can choose based on where I clearly see who to sell to and how. What criteria should I use to decide?
I'll answer very quickly. Do not ever choose based on VC trends because it's your baby. You're going to work on it for 10 plus years. You need to love the topic. You need to find the talent to work with you on the topic. You have to have the right connections with the companies or the people who want to use your product, right? It's your passion. Don't ever go for because we're all so dumber than you guys, VC trends change, so don't ever do it off of that.
And Anton, you have already said follow your mission, but do you have anything to add?
Yeah, basically, there's a lot of distractions along the way, known as trends. But this is just a distraction. Yeah, you should follow the passion. Your company is your baby, something that you're going to build for a long time. You have to keep your passion, understand that there's going to be high moments and low moments. You should be able to overcome that. So this is why I think you're much safer if you're mission driven.
Mm-hmm. Right. And for the whole panel, deep tech innovation is very fast-paced. However, when looking at society, we're seeing an increase in illiteracy in various levels, reading, math, finances, etc. Do you see any risk of AI creating less knowledge in society, so to speak?
If I can maybe continue here. So our industry is an interesting one. This is the one that repels AI quite a bit. So what we're doing is AI dubbing and localization has been banned in Mexico one month ago, and 2 weeks ago was banned in France as well. So there is a bit of antagonism between like AI enthusiasts and tech-first people and more of a conservative people from industry used to the things that they used to already. So I think there is a big potential in bridging that gap between crazy tech people running forward with very new stuff and trends, and with reserved people who are used to the ways that were there before. I feel like it's our job to educate, basically people on both sides, and by bridging that gap, we're creating the opportunity to build.
I think on the one hand, that is specific to my optics from Toloka. Since we are collecting human intelligence to power AI and to power all these models that are later used in ChatGPT, Claude, etc., I think many people kind of underestimate the intellectual difficulty of the job of training AI. It is at least comparable to the day-to-day job that people are doing right now. And sometimes it is even much more hard and difficult. We are really trying hard to find experts who are really professional enough to bring new signals to the models. And in general, I think that in many ways we will see much more kind of rebalancement of the job market in general between using AI and training AI in some broad meanings of that. And overall, I would anticipate the job market to be evolutionizing further, because soon we will be in the situation when, roughly speaking, 80% of jobs can be done, of every job can be done by AI, but 20 will never be, or for observable future, will not be possible to be done by AI. But how do we structure these hybrid workloads? How do we seamlessly integrate human expertise whenever AI reaches the glass ceiling? This is a very interesting topic to discuss, and I think this is what we should be thinking of and building going forward.
There's still a very human part to the conversation, even though you mentioned benchmarking as a priority, and you guys talked about trust, but there's still very much a human component to all the conversations that we're having. I think for Kelly first, when do you think VCs will add AI to their names the same way that companies are today?
Well, I didn't expect a shoe company, Allbirds, to add AI. And that they kind of beat the VC world to it.
Yeah. So who knows? Yeah, who knows what will happen tomorrow? But I think for Olga and Anton, and maybe this is the final question that we have time for. If you were, of course, your startup is your baby, your company is your baby, so you wouldn't want to change that. But in case you were building another startup today, what would that be? Which problems do you see the most promising or exciting to work on in this space?
I don't know. I'm working on the most promising and most.
Fantastic answer. Anton?
Well, I do have an answer to that. So technology is not there yet, but I'm working on trying to reduce friction from communicating between people by translating and removing language barriers. But the thing is that there are some things that cannot be expressed with language. And I have the vision for the second part of my life. I want to build a company that will make it possible to send someone a smell or a feeling. But for that, I would need a chip in the brain that is not yet there. So for now, I'm solving the language task.
Thank you very much. Please give a big applause to Anton.